Hi, this is Wesley Lawton. I am the Grief Support Services Manager for Hospice of Michigan in Macomb County, and I'm the facilitator for the Men Overcoming Loss Partner Spouse Group. This was our second meeting as a group that is specific for loss of a spouse or partner. And overall, I and the guys who have been part of the group in the last couple months have been really happy about um, the switch that we've made. It's allowed us to focus more specifically on issues that are specific to loss of a spouse or partner. Um, and so they've been able to connect on those even more directly and deeply and connecting with one another. So that's been great to see. Um, there were a few topics that were primarily addressed in February's group meeting. The first one was towards the beginning of the group. There were a few guys and most of the other guys nodding their heads, talking about, it had been a number of months since their wives had died, and the one in particular who started this topic, and just really missing the way that things were, quite frankly. I mean, they all gave specific examples of stories of things that they miss about their respective wives, um, memories that they had together, um, characteristics about that person. Um, things about not just about the person in that relationship, but also just about the way that their lives were sort of arranged differently, and they weren't living alone. That was a big part of it as well. Looking at photos and videos, we were discussing some of those issues. Wishing that they had more photos or more videos or more voicemails, voice messages on the phone, and um, we talked about how simply they missed the way that things were, and um, to put it pretty frankly, they kind of wanted their old lives back, and that's a very understandable feeling. It's one that just about everybody goes through after a loss, especially the loss of a spouse. It just flips your life upside down and totally rocks your world, and it's not something that you gave permission to be able to happen, and yet it happened to you. And so that really should not be minimized, or rather, it cannot be overstated how big of a deal such a loss is. And so if you're watching this video and you're going through this kind of a loss, and you're trying to sort of downplay it to maybe yourself or to other people, I encourage you to be honest about what a huge, painful shift and up upearthing this is. Digging up your life and putting you on your head. So to mix metaphors there. Um, totally understandable to feel these kinds of things. And we talked about how that's just going to be there. That's just sort of the reality of it. Those kinds of feelings and thoughts, they're natural, they're understandable, and it's a focus on the past. And I heard in the guys' voices also, as I shared in the group, not only a longing and a pain, but also a gratitude that they had been through those things. They had gotten to experience those, to be with that person for as many years as they did, to have such beautiful weddings, beautiful families, beautiful plans and lives together, that they enjoyed those for as long as they did. And that goes hand in hand with missing it and feeling like that ought to be there now. It's what they're used to. So holding all of that in one hand, what was? The good and the missing. But then in the other hand, to hold the present moment. The lives that they have now, to make the very most of them. And that starts by taking an honest look at it and saying, it's harder now. And I've got this emotional pain now that I didn't have before. I'm alone now. I'm thinking about my future differently now. My life is structured differently now. Being completely honest about that, and maybe, in fact, in all likelihood, the past would be preferable to the future. I mean, we don't have to hide that from ourselves, but the past is in the past and the present is what we have now. And if we want to get to a place of enjoying our lives again, of having peace in our lives, of having fulfilling relationships and futures that we look forward to, we must give attention to the present as well and not throw the past away. That's going to be there. And we can make the most of that too and celebrate that, be grateful for that, miss that, cry about that. Um, but as long as we're also holding the present, thinking about how am I structuring my life and spending my time now? Who are those relationships that are important to me now? Who are the people who have stuck with me, who I can call if I get into a jam, who, um, you know, my future, thinking about what are my goals now? Are my goals different? And most likely, at least some of them are. Um, just really looking, and also that gratitude about the past, that can be very helpful for the present as well. I even talked about grounding techniques and literally thinking about right now in this present moment. So I'm recording this on February 21st at 1:53 p.m. and looking around. I've got my window right over here and looking at the melting snow and the shiny sun and the warming weather. And even though I know it's going to get cold again, I can appreciate that. Um, I can appreciate that I have heat in my home, and I work in my bedroom. I've got a comfortable bed to sleep in, and I'm feeling healthy. I'm feeling good. I had a good lunch today. So I mean, not to not to make this all about my own personal day, but using that as an example. I mean, just the simplest things, just noticing them and not taking them for granted, thinking about how, frankly, it could be worse, or um, just these sort of things you might see as undeserved gifts, things that are outside of your control going well. Um, so holding that longing and that pain and that missing and that gratitude for the past in one hand, and then looking at the present moment in the other hand, and living your life that way with that kind of attention. So that was one of the main topics. Another one was one that I won't say too much about because I've talked about it in other videos, and it's a really common theme. It comes up almost every group in some way or another because it's just so central. And that is about facing your feelings. And we had a few new guys here in this most recent group, and it was great to have them. And one or two of them were talking about that, about how their losses were fairly recent, and about how they're really trying to go head on and face their grief and express their feelings and not avoid it, not run from it or hide from it, not downplay it, but to, whether it's crying, whether it's talking, being angry, just working it out, doing the grief work. That's why we use the phrase grief work, because it is hard work. And I understand and I respect that everybody's got to take the time they need, and so you might not feel ready to start living your life and working through your grief in that way. And that's okay, as long as you revisit that, because um, continuing to avoid it and shield yourself from it more often than not, you're carrying that grief around with you. It's not like it's gone. It's that you're keeping it inside, and it can do harm to your life. It can make it hard to move forward in a way that brings peace and joy and all these kinds of things. And so, I say it all the time, the only way out is through. And not that you really ever get out completely from your grief. You'll always love and miss your person and have that connection with them. But to get out of that deep, dark place where you are in the days and the weeks easily, and on some level the months, sometimes the years after a loss, to get out of that place, to get out, you have to go through it. You have to become familiar with that pain, which leads to it being less overwhelming. We talked about the word adapt, and I'm a big fan of that word when talking about grief. It's really all about adapting. Your life is different now, and you got to make all kinds of changes, and that's a hard process. But facing that and adapting to it is really the name of the game, and it's how you can move forward in a way that you can be happy with. And then finally, the issue that I would like to focus on now that we talked about in the group was one of the guys was talking about doing I would say a ritual, a grieving ritual, or you might say an event that would be sort of a mirror of his wedding day with his wife. Um, Maybe not a perfect mirror, of course, because she's not there, and some of those kinds of parts of a wedding would be inappropriate with her not being there and with her having died, and that wasn't what he was talking about. But similar, without giving details and protecting his privacy, but similar kind of environment, similar kinds of activities as a part of that event. A lot of the same people being invited, being a part of it, and taking that as a time to honor and celebrate his wife, even though she's died. I think in his case it's over a year ago now, um, or maybe it would be on the anniversary of her death. I don't remember exactly what his plans were, but even though it's been a while, it wouldn't be a memorial service within a couple weeks of the death. Uh, and he asked whether that's a good idea, whether it's too corny, whether it's just going to cause him more heartache. And we pretty much unanimously agreed that it was a good idea to do something like that. Um, Again, I would characterize that as a healthy grieving ritual. You're mourning, you're expressing your grief together in community with other people who love you and who love your wife, in his case. Um, and you're taking action that reminds you of her in a positive way. And so, whether you decide to do something like that or just, some other grieving ritual, going to a place, listening to a song, lighting a candle, planting a flower or a tree or a plant of some other kind. People do balloon releases. There's environmental concerns about that, and so I typically don't recommend it, but it can be very meaningful, I know. Um, Making a donation, volunteering, um, all kinds of things. The options are limitless, and I'd be happy to talk with you who are watching this video if you would like to join our group or get in touch with me about something that can work for you. These healthy grieving rituals, or you might say linking rituals, these things that connect you to your loved one in a healthy way. Being sad and missing them and thinking about them and how much you wish that they were with you, that is part of it. But you can also take these intentional actions that connect you with them in a way that brings a smile to your face and that gives you energy in your life to live in the present and to move forward. So those are the things I wanted to talk with you about today that came from our group and that were brought up by the guys. And of course, I want to thank them. I don't do this very often in the videos. I want to thank them for their participation, their vulnerability, and their sharing. And if any of you are watching this, and if you haven't participated with the group, or if it's been a long time, I invite you to do that if you feel that it would be beneficial for you. We meet the third Tuesday of each month from 6 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. And that is all over Zoom as of right now. As of now, depending on which way the pandemic goes in the coming months, I'm hoping to have the Clinton Township office where I work be an optional location to participate in person, and we'll have the Zoom option going as well, and we'll do it kind of simultaneously all together as a group, virtually and physically. That would be starting in April. So that's the plan as of right now. Again, we'll have to be flexible as we have been with this pandemic, but it'd be great to be able to gather in person for those who are within driving distance. I know that most of the group members are not. They'll continue to participate virtually. Also wanted to mention that one of the guys started an additional meeting each month for those who are part of the group and want to meet more than once a month. So that's completely independent of Hospice of Michigan, Arbor Hospice, and what we're doing with this men's group that I'm talking about. But just wanted to let you who are watching this video know that that's going on, and if you want to connect with him in the group, or if you want to email me and have me connect you with him about it, that's certainly something that you'd be, I'm sure, welcome and invited to do. So thank you for watching. You can find out about this group and all of our groups at our website, HOM.org. And up at the top, you click Grief Support at the top right, over a little ways. And then from there you can look at the virtual support groups, or you can just click a little link that says click here to learn more about our groups. You can see Men Overcoming Loss of Spouse and Partner in all of our groups there, and you can find out my contact info and how to register for each of those groups, other grief counselors who lead those. So thank you for your time. Thank you for watching this, and I encourage you to share it with somebody who you think could benefit if that's something that comes to mind for you, or if somebody comes to mind for you. And I hope you take good care until next time. Thanks.